Gen Z, alphas, and betas will be more prone and apt to express themselves in a more dematerialized digital way, augmented reality fashion.
Hello, I'm Louic Prigent. You're listening to Louis Vuitton Extended, the podcast. This episode is all about technology. Web3, Metaverse, NFTs, you all know these terms, but do you fully understand them and their impacts on fashion? Listen to my conversation with Megan Kaspar, and you will. Megan Kaspar is a visionary entrepreneur who understood very early how emerging technologies and fashion could be a great match. I must say that I have learned new things on digitalization, and I hope that you will too. Megan is in New York, I'm in Paris, and this is the joy of remote. But thanks to the miracles of video conferencing, we can see each other. Hello Megan, super nice to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thanks for having me.
My first question would be, what is your first personal memory with technology?
So growing up in a small town, I didn't have a lot of access to different brands and consumer products. And when we first had a desktop computer put in the house, I would spend hours on the internet playing on Yahoo Messenger and AOL Messenger and ICQ. And then I later discovered MySpace and then a few years later, Facebook. And through the internet, I was able to learn about high-end luxury fashion brands. And Louis Vuitton was actually the first brand that I was exposed to through the internet. So technology and fashion for me both have a really nice synchronistic merge.
What was your aha moment regarding the virtual world?
Well, the Apple iPhone launched the year I graduated high school. And the last 12 years as an emerging technology investor have found that looking at the outside world, we're very device dependent. So the aha moment is really around the fact that we've been living in the metaverse for several decades without mostly people realizing what's going on. And for me as a technology investor, I really focus on this age of digitization and dematerialization that's happening around efficiency. So in years past, we wouldn't have been able to efficiently and conveniently hail a cab from a device that we keep in our pocket or our handbags. And that efficiency keeps evolving. It evolves around communication, it evolves around workflow, entertainment, and social media. Social media back in the early 2000s versus now is very different. And I think that also will continue to evolve as we have younger generations like Gen Z spending more time than any other generation on devices. Today, first graders, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds are being handed tablets in school to learn and to do homework. So our world is changing very quickly. And, I was not the first generation as a millennial to grow up with a device in my hand, but these generations are, and that's really what's driving this digital identity, to bring your identity online. And I think, Gen Betas and Gen Alphas, they will value their digital identity more than their physical identity.
Could you explain to me for example, the Metaverse? What is the Metaverse right now? Is it something that's about to happen, or are we already living in the Metaverse?
So like I said, I think that we've already been living in the Metaverse. And when we talk about Metaverse and Web3 and Web4, these are just different evolved versions of the internet. So basically, it's the way that the internet is being used in society through different devices, like the desktop, then the laptop, then the handheld device, and soon we're going to a near-eye face computer wearable, and then beyond that, brain computer interfaces and so on and such forth. But when we think about these new iterations of the World Wide Web that incorporate new functions such as decentralization, blockchain technologies, and token-based economies, that's really what Web3 is. And we're also moving with the emergence of these new hardware technologies, we're moving into what's called Web 4, which is known as the symbiotic web. So this is really the fourth generation of the World Wide Web that's decentralized, intelligent. It's a more personalized version of the web that enables a new wave of hardware. It's like when Apple Vision Pro is launching, and this is built with Web3 blockchain peer-to-peer networks and token technology. But it also adds emerging software technologies that include artificial intelligence, AI, spatial, and quantum computing. So these are really sort of the next generations of software. And the key differentiating characteristics between Web3 and Web4 versus the Web2 that we know is that it runs on a blockchain network rather than a single server, and it's not managed by a central authority. So this means that the users can interact with applications without handing over their data to a third-party provider, and it allows a greater control over how that data is shared and accessed. And these blockchains and cryptocurrencies and all of these sort of metaverse buzzwords that we're hearing, the usability tools from the standpoint of consumers being able to easily interact with them, it's still very nascent. Connect Wallet being one of them. In Web 2, we brought our identities online using login to account. And we have these siloed accounts with our identities sort of scattered everywhere. Companies, have access to our information siloed, but we can't just take it with us. Whereas in Web 3, we connect our wallets and take all of our assets, all of our identity with us to each platform. So it's really enabling an entire new wave of a way that we can interact and have more control over what we're doing online.
It will always seem easier and easier. Web 4 is for when?
I think that we're in between this. There are several investors that would argue we're in a Web 2.5 era. I think we're in Web 3.5 moving to Web 4 because Web 4 is really where you're going to have artificial intelligence, spatial computing, and quantum computing interacting with each other with these new hardware devices that are coming.
Yeah, when I see those guys trying on the Apple Visio Pro, it seems very Web 4.
It is so cool.
Casey Neistat and Times Square with his Apple Vision seems very next.
The moment I've been waiting for since 2015. I've been very excited about the dematerialization of all the world's assets into some contextual overlay into physical reality through spatial computing and they call it XR, AR, XR. I think this iteration is great, and it's done a lot for the whole overall ecosystem of Web3, Web4, Metaverse. But the device, it still has some issues and some ways that'll prevent people from using the device as much as we use the phone. So we'll get to a place where we have devices that are easy on and off and don't affect the rest of our physical reality.
When and how the industry of fashion collided with the innovative technologies, would you say?
So you can pinpoint where fashion collided with innovation technologies, and that surprisingly was nearly about 2.5 centuries ago upon the invention of the mechanical loom. So that innovative moment was a time for scale and production. And the chronological history of fashion, actually, there's a really great book called Fashionopolis by Dana Thomas, which I highly recommend. She goes through all the iterations. But if you fast forward to today and the launch of the internet back in the 80s, and then, really where innovation is colliding with fashion today, and especially in my lifetime and what I've gotten to experience is this shift from brick and mortar to online. And with Web 2, the fashion industry didn't think that consumers would buy fashion online. So they weren't interested in selling fashion online. And we quickly saw that that really wasn't the case. Consumers are, living more and more of their active lives online. And the industry now is very quick to adopt Web3. So when you look at all the fashion brands globally, they're very interested and are participating in some activities inside of Web3.
And what is the Metaverse bringing to fashion online shopping?
So when you look at it, it's hard to think about what that looks contextually with the devices that we have today because we're quite limited. You can look at NFTs. So the NFT market is still nascent, but thriving. And digital fashion is one of the best use cases for NFTs, in my opinion. And it's also the gateway through which the entire fashion industry will eventually get disrupted because you own your assets, whereas all of these centralized environments like Roblox and Fortnite, you actually don't own your assets. And on-chain, you do own them. So when we think about shopping in the metaverse, again, something like the Apple Vision Pro, there are already several brands that have online shopping experiences that make it much easier for the consumer to see what they're buying. They can see it on an avatar version of themselves. You have augmented reality, which AR try-ons are becoming a much better way to purchase things. Yeah, there's definitely several aspects of Metaverse fashion online shopping that are being integrated now, but we're still very early.
Do you buy a lot of NFTs yourself?
I've been in the crypto blockchain space since 2012, so I am mostly in the fungible token ecosystem, but I do have several NFTs. And for me, I'm most excited about digital fashion, real world assets being put on chain. So fashion being put on chain, similar to what Louis Vuitton is doing with the VIA program. But anytime I buy fashion now, my mind instantly thinks I'd like to have that on chain so that I can have my ownership attached to my wallet. And there's many different value points that get unlocked from owning things on chain. All of the assets that I own in my closet, no one today can see them, or they won't know what I have unless I take photos. And then again, now we see on social media, there are issues where people say, oh, you don't really own that, or it's not yours. But if it's on chain and it's connected to your wallet, it's instantly and immediately provable for that ownership. And you can then do really cool things like take leverage against it or loan them in a much faster, easier, more streamlined environment.
I just noticed you're wearing earrings that are a filter, right?
Yes, they're DressX. Yes, so DressX has a camera which allows you to wear augmented reality digital fashion on live video stream platforms like Zoom.
Quite surrealist. I love it.
Yeah, and the technology is rapidly improving, and the accuracy and experiences of these tools are really key to online fashion shopping. Different products like Apple Vision Pro, which is photorealistic, super high quality. Meta's AR team is launching Orion AR glasses. They were supposed to unveil those this year at Connect 2024, which typically happens in October. So yeah, we have a lot of really great things happening in 2024 around hardware that will enable better versions of augmented reality. And most interestingly is I was the first person in the world to wear augmented reality NFTs, digital fashion NFTs on live television in 2021. So that was a few years ago. Up until now, we haven't really had better improvement of these technologies and filters. But
yeah, 2021 is ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
I remember those images. It was really incredible. What do you think are the main stakes for fashion brands and luxury maison?
When I think about fashion for brands, consumers, the planet, I think the provenance and scarcity fact of on-chain assets, it allows the brand to protect their IP and their products. And it can also open up a world of 99% profit margins if it's pure digital. And they get a perpetual participation in the secondary market economics. So there's quite a large opportunity there. And the fashion industry is about a little over $2 trillion annually on a global scale. And on-chain tokenization now opens up a whole new world of monetization and business models, which can easily double or triple the annual market size of the fashion industry in the next couple of years. That's just on the brand side. But I also think about it on the consumer side, which is sort of this new unlocked value, the visibility of closets, taking leverage against your assets, which I call the influencer 2.0. So if you think about how influencers use social media today, this isn't just a shift towards flaunting your fashion. It's really just this revolution in how we perceive value and opportunity. So imagine a world where the contents in your wallet, the assets that you own, the bags, the fashion are more than just numbers and value. They're really a testament to your abilities, your style, your personality. So it becomes more of this game where everyone can see not just what you own, but how you leverage it and push boundaries to redefine success and to sort of tell this story of who you are to the world.
How is this dematerialization an opportunity for fashion?
The dematerialization unlocks so much value, exponential value in growth from the consumer side and access, but also for the brands. And then from a sustainability aspect as well, you have 8 billion people on the planet with 80 billion pieces of apparel being created annually, and 40% of those pieces in the US and Europe on average go unworn. And the items that are worn 7 times and then tossed out. So when you have worldwide, we jettison 2.1 billion tons of fashion per year. That can all be drastically decreased through this dematerialization of fashion, where we shift into a reality where we're purchasing more and more digital fashion, and we're able to project with our new hardware devices digital versions of our clothes and being able to tell a story of who we are and share our personality and assets through a digital version instead of the physical.
So it means we're going to be all wearing gray sweaters, but buying dematerialized, super beautiful crinolines from Nicolas Ghesquière.
It's actually funny that you say that, because I've said for years, I have a theory, 20 years down the road, everyone's going to be wearing solid monochromatic outfits, and then they'll be able to fashion. And it's funny because I just went to the women's wear show and I wore colors and it was great. And when I got there, over 90% of the participants were wearing all black. And I'm like, well, they're ready for digital fashion.
What was your reaction to that fashion show for the 10 years of Nicolas Ghesquière in the Louvre?
Oh, incredible. It was the most amazing experience. I was just the whole setup and the experience of the sound and the installations. It was my first time at a show like this.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't really know what to expect. And it really was just this amazing positive energy. And you could feel it in the air. And it was beautiful and magical. And I'm super grateful that I got to experience it.
Can you tell me how can AI, AR, and physical craft coexist? That's a critical question.
Yeah. So I think everything is Internet of Things, IoT, where we're going to have this interconnected world. Again, I go back to the devices because it's a really pivotal, important aspect of how we interact with these software technologies, AI and AR. And the physical world around us will also be utilized in all of that. So really, with the new devices that will empower augmented reality and AI in real time, like the near-eye face computer wearables, which aren't here yet. But if you're in America, you can go to an Apple store and try them out. And once you try it, then you can understand it's really hard to sort of conceptualize the world that I'm laying out here. But when you try it or you see a video of it, you can start to understand and realize, like, okay, yes, this is the future where our physical world will be interacted with a digital world at the same time.
In terms of production, fashion shows, retail, customer experience, what has changed over the last few years?
Technology, experiences, AR try-ons, brand consumer relationships. I think all of this is shifting quite drastically.
And can you explain to our audience what Louis Vuitton did with the VIA treasure trunk?
Yes, the most exciting digital fashion activation in Web3, I think.
Yay!
So Louis Vuitton took assets and tokenized the physical products. So they started with the iconic trunk, which is a historical piece that marks the brand. All the history around the brand revolves around the trunk. And
it's logical.
Yes. And the VIA trunk initiative was a phygital or connected product, meaning that the real-world physical item is connected to an on-chain smart contract on a blockchain. It was on Ethereum. And the trunk has NFC chips in it that enable verification and certification through the Aura blockchain, which was also emerged and born out of people at Louis Vuitton. And this connected product can then be redeemed for its physical counterpart. So it offers not only access to the physical and the digital, but then access to a community with privileged experiences, also unlocks future products that only the trunk holders have access to purchasing. So it's definitely a very innovative new way of the brand being able to have a relationship with the consumer.
Do you own one?
I do. And I also am the founding member of Red DAO, which is the world's first digital fashion-focused DAO. And we own the most expensive digital fashion NFT, which is also physical. So it's a connected product. It's a Doge crown. And that crown was purchased for over $1 million. And Red DAO also is a trunk holder. So we are very proud owners of the VIA trunk and active participants in the community for VIA.
If I want to buy one, I need to go to a physical shop?
So there are 200 trunks in total, and Louis Vuitton could have sold them out immediately, but did not, and has been very selective as to who has access to being able to purchase this first iteration of the VIA trunk, you would have to contact the brand or me or someone who's a VIA guide that could help to introduce you to the VIA program.
Let's travel to 2050. How will creativity, production, and retail be impacted by all this?
So we kind of already touched on it, but I think in about 25 years, people will be more focused, or at least I would say millennials, Gen Z, alphas, and betas will be more prone and apt to wearing sort of monochromatic, simple, physical clothing, and they'll express themselves in a more dematerialized digital way. So with augmented reality fashion, and then also, the virtual worlds that they'll probably be participating in as well. But I'm more of a bigger proponent of social reality, which is, devices that enable us to interact with physical reality and digital at the same time. And I think that, the creativity is exponential. Production, the fashion industry in general, will shift to more of this made-to-order market instead of a mass production.
And what experiences yet to be invented do you think will be offered to consumers, particularly via social networks?
So like I've talked about with the Internet of Things and how everything will be connected and, you can view them through your devices. I think that brings on a world where there's just so much data that's being now collected and consumed and disseminated. And I've coined this term, where to earn, which is something that comes out of what I think is the to-earn economy. So when we look at Web 2, it brought this creator economy. You have all these influencers that now have their own brands or products, or they themselves have become the brand and are able to sell products and market products. And when we think about Web 3, I think it's this to-earn economy where everyone will be doing things to earn, like play to earn, learn to earn, act to earn. And specifically in fashion, I think it's where to earn. So imagine we're all walking around with better versions of the Apple Vision Pro, and you see an outfit that you like, you can instantly find out what it is, where to buy it, and perhaps the person who's wearing it can have attribution and get compensated for you purchasing that just through your glasses. You can take it one step further and think about geographical location-based interactive initiatives where brands can partner with artists at concerts and or events like Coachella, and people that are wearing specific outfits or accessories can then be compensated through the event on-chain through a wallet because everyone can now see it in AR glasses. So this world is not something that's afforded to us today, but on-chain ownership and augmented reality both implement the ability for that to happen.
I can't wait for this. What is personally, your latest app that you downloaded and that you love?
I would say I use ChatGPT so much.
C'est vrai?
It's awful. I really love ChatGPT. I do think we'll get to a place, we're all becoming prompting engineers. There's an art and a craft to being able to talk to your AI and communicate with it. I'm so happy to be alive at this time and to experience ChatGPT and this first version of AI, because I think in the future, everyone will have, you have the ability to train your AI, curate your AI data, and own your AI data. And we'll get to a place where I think that changes. I always say, our grandchildren will make fun of us for the way that we've created content with our phones, taking our phones and putting them out and videoing and recording and photographing. We won't be doing that, I don't think. I think it'll just all be in AI. We'll be able to prompt the avatar version of ourselves and say, okay, I want to sit in Paris under the Eiffel Tower wearing a Louis Vuitton Pharrell Speedy in an orange color. All of this stuff, I think, will just be prompted in AI, which then again brings, that's part of the unlocked value that the brands will have, is to be able to unlock the IP that they own and monetize it in these new digital ways and new digital forms. And all of that can be done in a very streamlined, seamless way using the blockchain.
Thank you so much, Megan, for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
Merci beaucoup. Really appreciate. And this was Megan Kaspar. Can you believe I didn't realize she had a filter of earrings since the beginning? And it took me 15 minutes to realize it was a filter. I'm so naive. I'm so MySpace. It's always great, I think, to talk to entrepreneurs because they have this way to make the future tangible. And because it's logical to them, I guess. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Louis Vuitton podcast Extended. I'll be inviting you soon to discover new stories in the company of visionary personalities. Find all the episodes on your favorite listening platforms, such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You should subscribe to the podcast to get notifications so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. I look forward to welcome you back.